And welcome back to Iron Sports. Spectators and fans turning out to watch local sporting events have declined in recent years, and that has sparked some fear about staging of events, especially at the National Stadium, and that has a capacity, of course, of around 35,000. Recently, Chairman of the Gibson Relays, Professor Rainford Wilkes, Pinnock outlined an innovative method they have to increase support for the biggest one-day relay carnival in the country. Take a look.
The market is much broader now, and one of the ways it manifests itself, we assume, is in terms of the support. That is both crowd, sponsorship. You know, we have had our economic problems, and therefore there's competition for the support, and we recognize that. And therefore one of our challenges is how to remain relevant. I do believe that we are unique. I think the concept of a relay carnival, we suffer the disadvantage of coming rather early in the season, but the concept of relay carnival is not duplicated anywhere else. But sometimes you come down to the facts that there is just limited resources, sponsors, patrons, and so on. And so we have seen that. So over the last few years, the growth has not been at the same level as the years before. And it's going to be part of what I'll say today, because we need to investigate that, not only for our own selves, but also for the whole sporting market, because one of the things I noticed is that a lot of matches at the stadium is empty for a lot of events, which would not be so when I was your age. We're trying. And we have something new this year. We will introduce, last year we introduced music because people complained about the downtime and the boredom. And we have a generation now which is not going to go at Sabina Park and sit down for 5 days like I would and not complain about it. But this year in particular, one of our committee members suggested having a component which will give back to the audience and hopefully attract them. We're going to have some cash prize draws this year. We're going to have about, going to be a grand prize at the end of the day of $100,000 from ticket sales drawn electronically. And throughout the day, we'll start off with 4 prizes of $5,000 each. 2 for the grandstand, 2 for the bleachers, and then 4 prizes of $10,000 each. And we're hoping that that will bring more bodies to the stadium.
Right, so very innovative methods there being outlined by Professor Rainford Wilkes for this year's staging of the Gibson Relays. Joining us on Iron Sports to evaluate what Professor Wilkes just outlined and to look at other sporting events locally, we have distinguished sports marketer Chris Dering, as well as Vice President of the Intersecondary Schools Sports Association, Issa Colleen Montague. Lady and gentlemen, welcome back to Iron Sports. Always good to have you sharing company with us here on set.
Thank you.
All right, and you'd have both been listening to what Professor Wilkes mentioned there just now. Let me begin with you, for Mrs. Montague. In terms of how real and widespread do you think this, his view is in terms of spectator support waning for sporting events at the high school level, first and foremost?
I would agree to an extent that it is waning in terms of the numbers, depending on the location. Urban versus rural, where there's a particular interest, like football is like the sport in Western Jamaica. So there is always an energy around football there. You come into Kingston, it's a wider geographical area to cover, and so we have to play into that market as to who is really interested in what sport at any given time.
Right.
And
Chris?
the time of year as well.
Yeah. So quite a few factors to take into account. Chris, let me bring you in now. Going even outside the scope of high school sport, Professor Wilkes mentioned Sabina Park, for instance, where years ago persons would cook their food and go there for a 5-day match and just sit and watch cricket, listen it on their little transition radios and so on, and not worry about being bored and the entertainment value, but just purely watching the cricket. Nowadays that has changed. Do you find this to be so, and if so, what do you think can be done?
Well, first of all, the understanding the nexus between your event and being able to attract people through the gate is a very complex issue. It's not a one-size-fits-all, as Colleen would have spoken about. There's so many factors to consider. Location is one, but also the intrinsic value of your sport, and that changes over time. And so you have to, as a marketer, especially if you're marketing sports events, always keep your finger on the pulse as to why is it people are not coming through the gate. So you mentioned cricket. There was a point in time when, because West Indies was on top, the sport of cricket just attracted patrons. You wanted to be there. And of course, matches were not televised in those days generally. Cricket was not on. So to get a chance to see your stars, you had to go to Sabina Park to see them. Then it moved to a point where, okay, there was an issue of pricing. And we were charging across the region prices for our domestic first-class cricket, which almost mirrored our international cricket. Because we were taking advantage of the fact that cricket was so popular. But all of a sudden, the public said, no, I don't value it the same way. And so prices, crowds started to decline and so on. Then the fact that we started to televise international cricket all year round, it impacted Test cricket. And so we started to do surveys as to why aren't people coming to cricket, especially younger people. Two reasons came up for young men especially. First, the sport was boring, which you can understand. If you don't know the sport, you're not exposed to the sport, you might think it's boring. So you're not going to want to spend money to go and take something if you think it's boring. But number two, what's on a young boy's mind between ages of 18 and 25? Girls. There are no girls at cricket. And so you had to look at your sport and the event and say, okay, how can we attract women to cricket, which would then attract more men to cricket? And so we came up with the mound, if you remember.
Yes, I remember that. Now that was early 90s, wasn't it?
Early 90s, mid-90s.
Mid-90s. Mrs. Montague, you smiled there. Do you share that view that maybe the entertainment value at these events need to be increased or to be brought in?
For entertainment.
No. I mean entertainment
I
overall.
Digress.
Because that brings
what I'm saying.
that brings more
Men
persons
beget
out.
women, beget more men, beget more women. Because it's a pleasant environment, you know.
And I would not necessarily go along that trail of thought in terms of the gender. It is because you find that there is the girl, you look at champs. They're coming to champs in the bleachers to meet and greet. If you ask half of that population at champs on a Saturday, who won the last event, they would be unable to tell you. They are there to just meet the vibe in the stadium, the vibe in the
Which is the point.
In there.
The point is the vibe is going to be different if it's all men versus all women versus a mix. You know, so you get a pleasant environment.
You mentioned champs, and once upon a time, there was girls' champs and boys' champs, and there was a huge concern that there wasn't the support for girls' champs in the stands as there was for boys' champs, and they merged it in 1999, and we saw a difference. So is it a case where for high school sporting events we need to have the different bodies coming together and then sharing ideas and so on, as we saw with champs, because that was quite a turning point for champs, and it has benefited since then? Yes,
for us as competition organizers, we are constantly looking to reframe, reschedule matches, bearing in mind that children are children in school. So it is all how you are going to schedule your matches, trying to get the best result. But in terms of twinning, say, boys and girls in other sports, it would be a little bit more of a challenge as against a boys and a girls champs. Because of the length of play that is required for, say, a football match, a basketball match, and trying to get those 2, 3, 4, the genders mixed on any particular venue on a day. You would either have to extend your play days or you are going to have to eliminate rounds.
All right. Track and field and football tend to be the two most popular sporting events for high schools. In terms of the support, do you see more support for track and field locally, high school track and field, than, say, high school football?
It depends on... There would be more for track and field on any weekend. It depends on the event. It depends on the persons who they highlight as their stars for the day. And I do not necessarily see it as any given one against the other, because it depends on the event itself, like the lead up for the development meets for champs. There are some that attract more patrons than others, depending on location again. It is about the following as to who is likely to be participating.
Yeah. All right, Chris, you had mentioned earlier about television and
Massive
back in the day,
impact
yeah, there wasn't
on
much
sports,
television, right? So we're gonna come to that point after we come back from this break, and also just looking at the overall promotion of sporting events here in Jamaica. Soon come.